Number 100 Facts About the Ocean's Mysteries, a Sleep Story. Hello there, and welcome back to the Sleepy Science Channel. I'm so glad you've returned. Maybe the ocean has always called to you, that deep blue mystery stretching to the horizon. Or maybe you've never given it much thought, but tonight, you're curious. Either way, you're exactly where you need to be. You can rest now. Tonight, you have nothing to do but let go. Let your breathing slow, deep and rhythmic like waves on a shore. Let your body sink into comfort, as if the surface beneath you is as supportive as water holding you afloat. Let your mind drift downward, below the surface, below the sunlight, into the blue depths where mystery lives. Because tonight, we're not just thinking about the ocean. We're descending into it, into the largest, deepest, most unexplored wilderness on Earth. Over the next hour and more, we'll drift together through 100 gentle truths about the ocean's mysteries. Some facts will surprise you. Others will simply wash over you like gentle currents, leaving only a soft impression as you sink towards sleep. And that's perfectly fine. There's no need to remember everything. Just let the words carry you, like a slow drift through deep water, like floating peacefully in the dark. And before we begin, if these quiet oceanic explorations help you unwind, if they give you a peaceful transition from the noise of day to the silence of night, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It helps others find this peaceful corner of the world, one sleepy soul at a time. Now, close your eyes if you'd like. Breathe slowly, in and out, like the tide. Feel yourself supported, held, floating. And let's begin our descent into the ocean's mysteries. Hashtag the blue planet. Our planet is misnamed. We call it Earth, but most of it is ocean. If you could see our world from space, as astronauts do, the first thing you'd notice is blue. Deep, endless blue, interrupted only by swirls of white clouds and occasional patches of brown and green land. The ocean covers 71% of Earth's surface, holding 97% of all water on the planet. It is the dominant feature of our world, the thing that makes us unique in the solar system, perhaps in the galaxy. And yet, we know so little about it. We've mapped more of the moon's surface, more of Mars, than we have of our own ocean floor. The deep sea remains one of the last great frontiers, a vast wilderness mostly unexplored, mostly unknown, hiding secrets in its depths that we're only beginning to discover. The ocean is not one body of water, but many. We divide it into 5 major oceans. The Pacific, the largest and deepest, covering more area than all the land on Earth combined. The Atlantic, stretching between the Americas and Europe and Africa. The Indian Ocean, warm and ancient. The Southern Ocean, circling Antarctica in endless cold currents. And the Arctic Ocean, the smallest, locked beneath ice for much of the year. But these divisions are human constructs, arbitrary lines drawn on maps. In reality, all these oceans connect, flowing into each other without boundary, forming one vast global ocean, a single body of water wrapping around the planet like a blanket, moderating climate, generating weather, sustaining life. Without the ocean, Earth would be a dead world. The ocean produces more than half the oxygen we breathe, not from waves or water itself, but from tiny organisms living near the surface, microscopic phytoplankton that photosynthesize like plants, turning sunlight and carbon dioxide into oxygen and organic matter. Every other breath you take comes from the ocean. Right now, as you breathe slowly, relaxing, half that oxygen was created by organisms you can't see, drifting in sunlit waters thousands of miles away. The ocean regulates temperature, absorbing heat from the sun and distributing it around the planet through currents. Without this heat transfer, the equator would be unbearably hot, and the poles even colder than they are. The ocean makes our planet habitable, keeps it balanced, maintains the conditions that allow life to exist. And it holds mysteries. So many mysteries. From creatures that glow in the dark to landscapes more dramatic than anything on land. From trenches deeper than mountains are tall to currents that flow like rivers through the sea. The ocean is vast and strange and beautiful, and tonight, we're going to sink into it, slowly, gently, letting it hold us as we drift towards sleep. Hashtag the sunlit surface. Let's start at the surface, where sunlight sparkles on water, where waves rise and fall in endless rhythm. This is the epipelagic zone, the sunlit layer of the ocean, extending from the surface down to about 200 meters. Here, light penetrates easily, making this the brightest, warmest, most familiar part of the ocean. This is where most ocean life concentrates. Phytoplankton drift here, those microscopic organisms producing oxygen and forming the base of the ocean food chain. They're eaten by zooplankton, tiny animals drifting with the currents. The zooplankton are eaten by small fish. Small fish are eaten by larger fish. And on it goes, energy flowing up the food chain, all of it beginning with sunlight and phytoplankton. The surface ocean is always moving. Waves form from wind blowing across water, transferring energy from air to sea. The size of waves depends on three things: wind speed, how long the wind blows, and the distance over which it blows, called the fetch. In the open ocean, far from land, where storms can blow for days across hundreds of miles of water, waves can grow enormous, towering walls of water 30 meters high or more. But waves are not water moving forward. They're energy moving through water. The water itself mostly stays in place, rising and falling as the wave passes, like fans in a stadium doing the wave. Only the energy moves, traveling across entire ocean basins, carrying the memory of distant storms to faraway shores. Beneath the waves, currents flow. Surface currents are driven by wind, forming great circular systems called gyres in each major ocean basin. These currents redistribute heat around the planet. The Gulf Stream, for example, carries warm water from the Caribbean north along the eastern coast of North America, then across the Atlantic toward Europe, moderating the climate, making northwestern Europe much warmer than it would otherwise be at that latitude. And there are deeper currents too, slower and colder, driven not by wind, but by differences in water density. Cold, salty water is denser than warm, fresh water, and it sinks, flowing along the ocean floor in slow motion, taking centuries to complete its circuit around the globe. This deep circulation, called the thermohaline circulation or the global conveyor belt, is crucial for distributing nutrients and regulating climate. The surface ocean teems with life. Dolphins leap through waves, their sleek bodies cutting through water with effortless grace. Sea turtles paddle slowly, ancient reptiles that have been swimming these waters for over 100 million years, older than the dinosaurs' extinction. Seabirds wheel and dive, plunging into the water to catch fish, then rising with wings that shake off droplets in the sunlight. And everywhere, fish. Schools of them, thousands moving together as one, turning in perfect synchronization, a liquid silver cloud flowing through blue water. Tuna, fast and powerful, hunting smaller fish. Marlin, with their long spear-like bills. Mahi-mahi, brilliant green and gold, flashing in the light. The surface ocean is alive, vibrant, full of motion and color and sound. But as you drift deeper, as you sink below the waves, as the light begins to dim, the ocean changes. It becomes quieter, cooler, stranger. And that's where we're going now, down into the mystery, into the deep. Hashtag the Twilight Zone. Below the sunlit surface, from about 200 meters down to 1,000 meters, lies the mesopelagic zone, often called the Twilight Zone. Here, sunlight fades to a dim blue glow, too weak for photosynthesis, but still visible to adapted eyes. This is a transition realm, caught between light and dark, between the familiar surface and the alien deep. The water here is cooler, the pressure higher. For every 10 meters you descend, the pressure increases by 1 atmosphere. At 200 meters depth, the pressure is 20 times what we experience at sea level. At 1,000 meters, it's 100 times greater. This immense pressure would crush most surface-dwelling creatures instantly. But the animals living here are adapted, their bodies designed to withstand it, their cells and tissues balanced with the surrounding water. In the Twilight Zone, one of the most remarkable phenomena in nature occurs every single day. The largest migration on Earth. As sunset approaches and the surface darkens, billions upon billions of organisms rise from the deep, swimming upward to feed in the nutrient-rich surface waters under cover of darkness. Tiny crustaceans called copepods, small fish, squid, jellyfish, all of them ascending hundreds of meters in one of the greatest mass movements of life on the planet. They feed through the night, consuming phytoplankton and each other, and then, As dawn approaches, they descend again, retreating to the safety of the deep where predators can't easily see them. This daily vertical migration happens in oceans all around the world, every day, without fail, a rhythm as old as life itself. And here, in the twilight zone, bioluminescence begins. This is the ability of living organisms to produce their own light through chemical reactions in their bodies. In the dark water, creatures glow. Some flash to attract mates. Others use light to lure prey, dangling glowing lures in front of their mouths, waiting for curious fish to investigate. Some emit clouds of glowing particles to confuse predators, like an underwater smokescreen made of light. The hatchetfish lives here, a small silvery fish with large upward-facing eyes and rows of light organs along its belly. These lights are bioluminescent, and the fish uses them for counter-illumination, matching the dim light from above so that when predators look up from below, the hatchetfish blends perfectly with the faint surface glow, becoming invisible. Giant squid hunt in the twilight zone. These legendary creatures, inspiration for countless sea monster tales, can grow to enormous size, some reaching 13 meters or more in length. They have the largest eyes in the animal kingdom, as big as dinner plates, evolved to capture every photon of light in the dim depths. For centuries, giant squid were known only from dead specimens washed ashore or found in the stomachs of sperm whales. It wasn't until 2004 that humans first photographed a living giant squid in its natural habitat, and not until 2012 that one was filmed. They remain elusive, mysterious, creatures more from legend than science. The Twilight Zone is also home to lanternfish, small fish barely longer than your finger, but numbering in the trillions, perhaps the most abundant vertebrates on Earth by weight. They have light organs on their bodies and use them to communicate, to school together, to recognize members of their own species in the dark. Each species has a different pattern of lights, like a bioluminescent barcode. As you drift through this zone, imagine the darkness pressing in, the dim blue fading to black, the temperature dropping. Imagine the sensation of pressure, the weight of all that water above, tons per square centimeter, and yet you're safe, suspended, held by the water, supported by its density. There's no need to swim, no need to struggle. Just float, weightless, drifting slowly downward into the deep. Hashtag the midnight zone. Below 1,000 meters, sunlight disappears completely. This is the bathypelagic zone, the midnight zone, where eternal darkness reigns. No sunlight has ever reached these depths, not a single photon penetrating this far. The only light comes from living things, from bioluminescence, brief flashes and glows in the endless black. The pressure here is crushing. At 2,000 meters, it's 200 times atmospheric pressure. At 4,000 meters, 400 times. A human without protection would be instantly killed, their body compressed, their lungs collapsed. But the creatures living here are perfectly adapted. Their bodies contain no air spaces that could be crushed. They're mostly water themselves, incompressible, their tissues designed to function under these extreme conditions. The temperature here hovers just above freezing, between 2 and 4 degrees Celsius. The water is cold, dark, and still. There's no current from wind, no waves, no seasons. Time moves differently here, measured not in days or years, but in the slow rain of organic matter drifting down from the surface, the marine snow that sustains deep-sea life. Marine snow, that's what scientists call it. The constant downward drift of dead organisms, fecal pellets, bits of organic matter falling from the sunlit layers above. It drifts down slowly, taking weeks or months to reach the deep ocean floor, and along the way, it's eaten and re-eaten by scavengers and decomposers, broken down into smaller and smaller pieces. By the time it reaches the bottom, very little organic matter remains. The deep sea is a desert, a place of scarcity where food is rare and precious. Life here is sparse, scattered, adapted to long periods of starvation. Many deep-sea fish have enormous mouths and expandable stomachs, allowing them to eat prey larger than themselves, because meals are infrequent and must be taken whenever the opportunity arises. Some can go months without eating, their metabolism slowed to conserve energy. The anglerfish is perhaps the most famous deep-sea creature. Females have a bioluminescent lure extending from their foreheads, a glowing bulb dangling in the darkness to attract prey. When a curious fish investigates, the anglerfish strikes with lightning speed, its massive jaws snapping shut. Males are much smaller, and in some species, they attach themselves permanently to females, fusing their tissues together, becoming parasitic mates that provide sperm in exchange for nutrients from the female's bloodstream. Gulper eels have mouths that seem impossibly large for their slender bodies, opening wide enough to swallow prey bigger than themselves. Their stomachs stretch to accommodate these oversized meals, bulging grotesquely in the darkness. Vampire squid, despite their ominous name, are actually gentle creatures, not vampires at all. They have a dark, velvety appearance and large, blue eyes, and when threatened, they turn themselves inside out, exposing spines and producing bioluminescent displays to confuse predators. They feed on marine snow, catching falling particles with sticky filaments. The Midnight Zone is also home to various species of jellyfish, drifting passively with slow currents, trailing long, stinging tentacles. Some are bioluminescent, glowing with ethereal beauty in the dark, pulsing with light like ghostly bells floating through the abyss. And there are stranger things. Creatures with bodies so transparent you can see through them, their internal organs visible like anatomical diagrams. Fish with tubular eyes, fixed in place, staring permanently upward to detect the silhouettes of prey against the faint light from above. Crustaceans with legs longer than their entire bodies, walking across the seafloor on stilts of chitin. This is an alien world, as foreign to us as any planet in the solar system, and yet it's here, on Earth, beneath the surface of the ocean, accessible if we choose to explore it. More humans have walked on the moon than have been to the deepest parts of the ocean. We know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the Midnight Zone. And as you drift through this darkness, imagine yourself safely enclosed, protected, held by the water, supported by its incredible pressure that would crush ordinary matter but holds you gently, like being wrapped in the softest blanket, the warmest embrace. The darkness is not threatening. It's peaceful. It's restful. It's like closing your eyes, like letting go, like surrendering to sleep. There's no light here to disturb you. No sound except the slow rhythm of your breathing. Just darkness and depth and the soft drift downward into rest. Hashtag the abyssal plain. Below 4,000 meters lies the abyssal zone, the abyss, extending down to about 6,000 meters. This is the largest habitat on Earth by volume, covering roughly 60% of the planet's surface. And it's almost completely flat, a vast plain of sediment stretching for thousands of kilometers in every direction, the flattest places on Earth. The abyssal plain formed over millions of years from the slow accumulation of sediment. Marine snow drifting down, settling, compressing, layer upon layer, building up over geological time. In some places, this sediment is thousands of meters thick, a record of millions of years of ocean history pressed into the seafloor. The water here is near freezing, just above 0 degrees Celsius, and the pressure is enormous, over 400 atmospheres. Darkness is absolute. No light has ever reached this far. Not from the sun, not from the moon, not from stars. Only the occasional brief flash of bioluminescence from passing organisms breaks the endless black. Life on the abyssal plain is sparse but present. Brittle stars, relatives of starfish, walk across the sediment on their thin, fragile arms, scavenging whatever organic matter they can find. Sea cucumbers, soft-bodied creatures looking like giant slugs, plow through the sediment, extracting nutrients. Amphipods, small crustaceans, burrow and feed and reproduce in the cold and dark. And there are fish. The Hadal snailfish holds the record for the deepest living fish ever filmed, captured on camera at over 8,100 meters depth in the Mariana Trench. It's a small, translucent creature with a tadpole-like body, gelatinous and seemingly fragile, yet perfectly adapted to survive at depths that would crush most other fish. Giant isopods live here too, looking like enormous versions of the pill bugs you might find in a garden, but growing as large as a small dog. They're scavengers, feeding on the occasional carcass that sinks from above, a dead whale or large fish providing a feast that might sustain them for months. Because food is so scarce in the abyss, when a large animal dies and sinks to the bottom, It creates an oasis of life, a temporary ecosystem called a whale fall. The carcass is quickly colonized by specialized organisms. First come the mobile scavengers, sharks and hagfish and crabs, tearing at the flesh. Then smaller creatures, worms and crustaceans, consuming the softer tissues. Eventually, bacteria break down the bones, extracting the last traces of nutrients, and the whale fall can sustain life for decades, a rare abundance in the desert of the deep. The abyssal plain is not completely flat. Scattered across it are seamounts, underwater mountains rising from the seafloor, some tall enough to reach toward the surface, others staying deep, hidden beneath the waves. These seamounts create islands of biodiversity, their slopes hosting corals and sponges and fish that can't survive on the flat sediment plain. And there are hydrothermal vents, one of the most extraordinary ecosystems on Earth. These vents form where tectonic plates spread apart, allowing magma from Earth's mantle to rise close to the seafloor. Seawater seeps into cracks in the rock, is heated by the magma to temperatures exceeding 400 degrees Celsius, dissolves minerals from the rock, and then erupts back into the ocean as superheated, mineral-rich water. This water is toxic, filled with chemicals like hydrogen sulfide that would poison most life. But at hydrothermal vents, entire ecosystems thrive, based not on sunlight and photosynthesis like the surface world, but on chemosynthesis, where bacteria extract energy from chemicals in the vent water. These bacteria form the base of the food chain, supporting tube worms meters long, giant clams, white crabs, and strange pale fish, all living in the hot, toxic water near the vents. When hydrothermal vents were first discovered in 1977, scientists were astonished. They had thought the deep sea was a lifeless desert, almost empty except for a few scavengers. But here was a thriving ecosystem, complex and abundant, surviving in conditions that seemed impossible for life. It revolutionized our understanding of biology, showing that life can exist in places we never imagined, under conditions we thought were uninhabitable. And it raised profound questions. If life can exist at hydrothermal vents on Earth, in the dark, under crushing pressure, far from sunlight, could life exist in similar environments elsewhere? On Europa, Jupiter's moon, which has a liquid ocean beneath its icy crust. On Enceladus, Saturn's moon, which sprays water into space from hydrothermal vents beneath its ice. The discovery of vent ecosystems expanded our sense of where life might exist in the universe. As you rest now, think of the abyssal plain stretching endlessly in all directions, flat and dark and cold. Think of the rare oases of life, the seamounts and vents, islands of abundance in the desert. Think of the creatures adapted to survive here, in this most extreme environment, living their lives in complete darkness, under pressures that would annihilate us, yet thriving, reproducing, continuing the ancient pattern of life that has persisted for billions of years. You don't have to survive extreme conditions. You're safe, comfortable, resting in a warm, protected place. The ocean's mysteries can remain mysteries. You don't have to understand them all, don't have to explore every depth. You can simply know they exist, know that the world is full of wonders, and let that knowledge be comforting. Let it be a soft background to your thoughts as you drift deeper into sleep. Hashtag the Hadal Zone. Below 6,000 meters, we enter the Hadal Zone, named after Hades, the Greek underworld. This is the deepest region of the ocean, found only in oceanic trenches, those long, narrow depressions in the seafloor where tectonic plates collide and one plate is forced beneath another in a process called subduction. The deepest place on Earth is the Challenger Deep, located in the Mariana Trench in the western Pacific Ocean. It reaches a depth of approximately 10,994 meters, nearly 11 kilometers beneath the surface. If you placed Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on Earth, into the Challenger Deep, its peak would still be over 2 kilometers underwater. The pressure at this depth is over 1,000 atmospheres, more than 15,000 pounds per square inch, enough to crush most materials, to compress human flesh into something unrecognizable. And yet, life exists even here. Amphipods have been found at these depths, small shrimp-like creatures scavenging on the seafloor. Snailfish have been filmed in Hadal trenches. And there are almost certainly species yet to be discovered, organisms perfectly adapted to conditions we're only beginning to explore. Only 4 descents have ever been made to the Challenger Deep by humans. In 1960, Jacques Picard and Don Walsh descended in the bathyscaphe Trieste, spending just 20 minutes at the bottom before ascending. In 2012, filmmaker James Cameron descended solo in the Deep-Sea Challenger, spending several hours exploring and filming. And in 2019 and 2020, Victor Vescovo made multiple dives in the DSV limiting factor, the first submersible capable of repeatedly reaching full ocean depth. These are the only times in history that humans have personally witnessed the deepest place on Earth. More people have been to space than to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. The Hadal Zone remains almost entirely unexplored, a vast frontier of darkness and pressure and mystery. What's remarkable is that even at these extreme depths, the ocean floor is not smooth. There are hills and valleys, rocks and sediment, a complex topography shaped by geological processes. And there's life, sparse but present, proving that no environment on Earth is too extreme for biology, that life finds a way even in the most unlikely places. The Hadal Zone is also where some of the strangest phenomena occur. In 2016, scientists discovered Hadal snailfish living at over 8,000 meters depth. These fish are translucent, with gelatinous bodies that seem too delicate to survive, yet they thrive at depths where the pressure would crush steel. Their cells contain special molecules that protect proteins from being denatured by pressure, and their bodies have adapted over millions of years to function in these extreme conditions. There are also giant single-celled organisms in the Hadal Zone. Xenophyophores, amoebas that can grow to 10 centimeters or more in diameter, among the largest single cells known. They live in the sediment, feeding on organic particles, their delicate tests, or shells, made of minerals and debris gathered from the seafloor. And at the very bottom, in the deepest trenches, scientists have found plastic. Microplastics, tiny fragments of broken-down plastic waste, have reached even the most remote, most inaccessible places on Earth. It's a sobering reminder of humanity's impact, that even the Hadal Zone, this alien realm that humans have barely visited, has been touched by our pollution. But the ocean is resilient. It's vast, powerful, and ancient. It has survived mass extinctions, asteroid impacts, ice ages, and warming periods. It will survive us too, though what form it takes in the future depends on choices we make now. The ocean holds memory in its depths, records of the past written in sediment and ice cores, and it will hold our legacy too, whatever that turns out to be. As you drift now, at the deepest point of your relaxation, as deep into rest as the Challenger Deep is beneath the surface, feel the pressure of sleep surrounding you, not crushing but supportive, holding you gently in its embrace. Feel the darkness, complete and total, wrapping around you like a blanket. Feel the stillness, the quiet, the peace of absolute depth. There's nothing below you but rest. Nothing ahead but sleep. You've descended as far as you need to go. Now you can simply be here, suspended in the dark, held by invisible forces, safe and still and drifting. Hashtag the coral reefs. Let's rise now, slowly, gently, back toward light and warmth. Let's drift upward to the coral reefs, those vibrant ecosystems found in shallow, tropical waters, the rainforests of the sea. Coral reefs cover less than 1% of the ocean floor, yet they support an estimated 25% of all marine species, an incredible concentration of biodiversity. Corals themselves are animals, though they look like rocks or plants. Each coral is actually a colony of tiny polyps, organisms related to jellyfish and sea anemones. These polyps build skeletons of calcium carbonate, limestone, and over time, generation after generation, these skeletons accumulate, building the massive structures we call reefs. But corals can't do it alone. Inside their tissues live microscopic algae called zooxanthellae, and these algae photosynthesize, using sunlight to produce sugars that the coral feeds on. In return, the coral provides the algae with protection and access to sunlight. It's a symbiotic relationship, a partnership that has existed for millions of years, each partner depending on the other for survival. This is why coral reefs only grow in shallow, clear, tropical waters. The algae needs sunlight, so reefs are confined to depths where light penetrates, usually less than 50 meters. They also need warm water, between 20 and 30 degrees Celsius, which is why they're found mostly in tropical and subtropical regions. The Great Barrier Reef, off the coast of Australia, is the largest coral reef system in the world, stretching over 2,300 kilometers and covering an area larger than Italy. It's so large it can be seen from space, one of the few biological structures visible to satellites. It's home to over 1,500 species of fish, 400 species of coral, and countless other organisms, from sea turtles to sharks to dugongs. Coral reefs are loud. If you've ever snorkeled over a reef, you might have heard the crackling, popping, clicking sounds emanating from it. This noise comes from snapping shrimp, tiny crustaceans that close their claws so fast they create a cavitation bubble that collapses with a loud pop. Millions of these shrimp live on reefs, and their collective snapping creates a constant background noise that can be heard kilometers away. Reefs are also important for humans. They protect coastlines from storms and erosion, acting as natural breakwaters that absorb wave energy. They provide food for hundreds of millions of people who depend on reef fish for protein. They support tourism industries worth billions of dollars annually. And they contain chemical compounds that have been used to develop new medicines, including treatments for cancer and bacterial infections. But coral reefs are in trouble. Rising ocean temperatures cause coral bleaching, where stressed corals expel their zooxanthellae, losing their color and their primary food source. If conditions don't improve quickly, the corals die. Ocean acidification, caused by the ocean absorbing excess carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, makes it harder for corals to build their calcium carbonate skeletons. Pollution, overfishing, and physical damage from boats and anchors all threaten reefs. Scientists estimate that we've lost about half of the world's coral reefs in the past few decades, and many remaining reefs are degraded or at risk. It's one of the great environmental challenges of our time, preserving these ecosystems that are so vital, so beautiful, so rich with life. But there's hope. Coral restoration projects are underway around the world, growing corals in nurseries and transplanting them to degraded reefs. Some corals are showing signs of adaptation to warmer waters, evolving tolerance to heat stress. And as awareness grows, more people are taking action to protect reefs, reducing pollution, establishing marine protected areas, and working to address climate change. The ocean is resilient. Life is resilient. And with care and effort, we can preserve these underwater gardens for future generations to marvel at, to study, to enjoy. The ocean has given us so much, sustained us for our entire history as a species. Now it's our turn to give back, to protect what remains, to be stewards rather than exploiters. As you drift upward through clear, tropical water in your mind, imagine sunlight filtering down in shafts of blue and gold. Imagine the colors of the reef below, the vibrant purples and reds and yellows and greens, the movement of fish darting through coral branches, the gentle swaying of sea fans in the current. Imagine the warmth of the water, comfortable and soothing, holding you as you float on the surface, looking down at this underwater paradise. You don't have to save the ocean tonight. You don't have to solve its problems or fix what's broken. You can simply appreciate it, simply know that it exists, that it's out there right now even as you rest, that life continues in its depths, mysterious and beautiful and endlessly adaptable. Let the ocean's resilience inspire your own. Let its vastness put your worries in perspective. Let its ancient rhythms, the tides and currents that have flowed for billions of years, remind you that some things endure, some patterns persist, some forces are bigger than any individual concern. The ocean will be here tomorrow, and so will you, rested and renewed, ready to face whatever comes. But right now, just float. Just drift. Just let the warm water hold you as you sink back into comfort, back into rest, back toward the soft darkness of sleep. Hashtag the kelp forests. Rising even closer to the surface now, let's visit the kelp forests, those underwater groves found in cold, nutrient-rich waters along rocky coastlines. Kelp is not a plant, but a type of large brown algae, and it can grow astonishingly fast, some species growing up to 60 centimeters per day, among the fastest-growing organisms on Earth. Giant kelp, the largest species, can grow over 45 meters tall, creating towering forests beneath the waves. Their holdfasts, root-like structures, anchor to rocky seafloors, while their long stipes, or stems, rise toward the surface, topped with leafy blades that spread across the water's surface, forming a dense canopy that filters the light below. Swimming through a kelp forest is like walking through a terrestrial forest, except you're weightless, floating, gliding between the towering fronds as fish dart through the kelp like birds through trees. The kelp sways with the surge of waves, a constant gentle motion that's hypnotic, calming, like being rocked slowly back and forth. Kelp forests are incredibly productive ecosystems, supporting a rich diversity of life. Sea urchins graze on the kelp, keeping it in check, though if their populations grow too large, they can overgraze, destroying entire forests and creating barren seafloors called urchin barrens. Sea otters are keystone predators in kelp forest ecosystems, feeding on sea urchins and keeping their populations under control. Where otters are present, kelp forests thrive. Where they're absent, urchins often take over. Harbor seals rest in kelp beds, wrapping themselves in the fronds to anchor in place while they sleep at the surface, drifting with the current but held by the kelp. Fish find shelter among the kelp blades, hiding from predators, feeding on smaller organisms. And enormous schools of fish sometimes form, thousands moving together through the forest in coordinated patterns that seem choreographed, though they're simply responding to each other's movements, each individual following simple rules that create complex collective behavior. California sea lions hunt in kelp forests, their sleek bodies perfectly adapted for maneuvering through the dense kelp. They're playful, curious animals, sometimes approaching divers and interacting with them, spinning and twirling in the water as if showing off their agility. Kelp forests also play important ecological roles beyond supporting marine life. They absorb large amounts of carbon dioxide from the water through photosynthesis, helping to mitigate ocean acidification in their local areas. They dampen wave energy, protecting coastlines from erosion. And they're harvested in some regions for their alginates, compounds used in everything from food to cosmetics to industrial applications. But like coral reefs, kelp forests face threats. Warming ocean waters can stress kelp, slowing its growth or killing it outright. Marine heat waves have devastated kelp forests along some coastlines, reducing them to a fraction of their former extent. Changes in ocean chemistry, loss of predators, and overfishing of species that control herbivores all impact kelp forest health. Yet kelp is resilient. Given the right conditions, it can regrow quickly, recolonizing areas where it was lost. Conservation efforts focusing on protecting keystone species like sea otters, managing fisheries sustainably, and addressing climate change can help kelp forests recover and persist. Imagine yourself now floating gently at the surface above a kelp forest, looking down through clear water at the dense canopy below. Imagine the peaceful swaying of the kelp, the play of light and shadow, the glimpses of fish moving between fronds. Imagine the coolness of the water, refreshing but not uncomfortable, holding you at the surface effortlessly as you float on your back, face tilted toward the sky, eyes closed, just drifting. The kelp sways below. The current moves gently, and you float, suspended between water and air, between waking and sleeping, perfectly balanced, perfectly still except for your breathing, slow and steady like the rhythm of waves. Hashtag the deep scattering layer. Let's drift back down now, away from the light, into the middle depths where something strange happens every day. There's a phenomenon called the deep scattering layer, and for years after its discovery, it puzzled scientists. During World War II, sonar operators noticed a layer in the ocean that reflected sound, appearing on their instruments as a false bottom, as if the seafloor was much shallower than it actually was. Even stranger, this layer moved. It rose toward the surface at night and descended during the day. It took years to figure out what it was, not a geological feature, but a biological one. The deep scattering layer is composed of countless millions of small organisms, primarily fish, squid, and crustaceans, all performing that daily vertical migration we mentioned earlier, rising at night to feed near the surface and descending during the day to avoid predators. The biomass involved in this migration is staggering. Estimates suggest that billions of tons of organisms participate, making it the largest animal migration on the planet, larger than the wildebeest migration in Africa, larger than bird migrations, larger than anything else. And it happens every single day, without fail, in oceans around the world, a global phenomenon driven by the simple calculus of risk and reward, the need to feed balanced against the need to avoid being eaten. This migration also transports nutrients and carbon from the surface to the deep, playing an important role in ocean carbon cycling. Organisms feed at the surface, absorbing carbon from phytoplankton and other prey, then descend and excrete waste or die at depth, transferring that carbon to deeper waters where it can be sequestered for long periods. This biological pump helps regulate atmospheric carbon dioxide, influencing global climate. The deep scattering layer is another example of how interconnected the ocean is, how processes in one part affect other parts, how life at different depths depends on and influences life elsewhere. The ocean is not a collection of separate ecosystems, but a unified whole, a three-dimensional web of relationships spanning from surface to seafloor, from pole to pole, all connected by currents and migrations and the flow of nutrients and energy. And as you think about this daily migration, this rising and falling, this movement between light and dark, think about your own rhythms. The daily cycle of waking and sleeping, the rising from rest each morning and the descending back into sleep each night. You're part of a rhythm too, an ancient pattern encoded in your biology, shaped by millions of years of evolution, timed to the rotation of the planet and the cycle of day and night. Right now, you're descending, moving from wakefulness toward sleep, from activity toward rest. And that's natural, necessary, healthy. Your body knows how to do this. Your mind knows how to let go. You don't have to force it or manage it. Just allow it to happen. The way those organisms in the deep scattering layer allow themselves to sink as dawn approaches, following their instincts, trusting the pattern that has sustained them for countless generations. Sink now. Descend. Let yourself fall gently through the water column of consciousness, through the layers of thought and awareness, down toward the deep, quiet place where sleep waits, patient and welcoming. #the songs of whales. In the ocean's depths, sound travels far. Water conducts sound better than air, and in the right conditions, sounds can travel across entire ocean basins, thousands of kilometers from source to receiver. This is how whales communicate over vast distances, singing songs that echo through the deep. Humpback whales are famous for their songs, complex vocalizations that can last for hours, repeated patterns of moans, howls, and cries that seem almost mournful, haunting, beautiful in a way that transcends species. All the males in a population sing the same song, and the song changes slowly over time, evolving from year to year, as if there's a culture, a shared tradition being passed down and modified by each generation. Scientists still don't fully understand why humpbacks sing. The songs are produced only by males, primarily during breeding season, suggesting they play a role in courtship or competition, but the details remain mysterious. Females don't visibly respond to the songs, at least not in ways we can easily observe. Yet the males continue to sing, hanging suspended in the water, sometimes for hours without pause, pouring energy into these elaborate vocalizations. Blue whales, the largest animals ever to exist on Earth, larger even than the largest dinosaurs, produce calls that are among the loudest sounds made by any animal. Their calls can reach 188 decibels, louder than a jet engine, and can travel thousands of kilometers through the ocean. Blue whales were once thought to be solitary animals, but we now know they communicate across vast distances, coordinating their movements and possibly their feeding behaviors through these long-range calls. Sperm whales make clicking sounds, loud, rapid-fire clicks that they use for echolocation, bouncing sound off objects to form acoustic images of their surroundings. They can hunt in complete darkness, tracking giant squid in the deep by sound alone. But they also seem to use clicks for communication, producing patterns called codas, rhythmic series of clicks that vary between different clans of whales, like dialects or accents, markers of group identity. The ocean is full of sound, not just whale songs, but the crackling of snapping shrimp, the grunts and croaks of fish, the clicks of dolphins, the groans of shifting ice, the rumble of underwater volcanoes, the creak of tectonic plates moving. If you could listen to the ocean in its full acoustic spectrum, it would be surprisingly noisy, a symphony of biological and geological sounds layering over each other, each telling a story, each revealing something about the hidden world beneath the waves. But human activities have made the ocean noisier still, in ways that harm marine life. Ship engines produce low-frequency sounds that overlap with whale calls, masking communication, making it harder for whales to find each other. Sonar from military vessels can injure or disorient marine mammals, disrupting their behavior, sometimes even causing them to beach themselves. Offshore construction, seismic surveys for oil and gas, all add noise to the ocean, creating an increasingly cacophonous environment for creatures that depend on sound for survival. Yet amid all this noise, whale songs persist. They adapt, sometimes changing their frequencies to avoid overlap with human sounds, sometimes singing louder, asserting their presence in the changing acoustic landscape. Life is resilient, adaptable, finding ways to persist even as conditions change. As you rest now, imagine the ocean filled with song. Imagine the deep calls of blue whales resonating through the water, too low for human ears to hear without assistance, but felt as much as heard, vibrations that travel through water and bone. Imagine the complex melodies of humpbacks, rising and falling in patterns that seem almost intentional, almost composed, as if the ocean itself is singing. Let these imagined songs be a lullaby. Let the thought of whales communicating across thousands of kilometers of dark water be comforting, a reminder that connection is possible even across vast distances, that voices can reach across emptiness, that we're never as alone as we might feel. The ocean sings. Life continues. And you, resting here, are part of that larger song, a small voice in the grand composition of existence, important not because you're loud or constant, but simply because you're here, adding your note to the chorus. Breathe slowly, like the long, slow breaths of a whale surfacing to breathe after a deep dive. Feel your chest rise and fall, steady and rhythmic. Let each breath carry you deeper into rest, further from waking, closer to the peaceful silence of sleep. Hashtag the endless cycle. The ocean is always changing, yet always the same. Water evaporates from the surface, rises into the atmosphere as vapor, condenses into clouds, falls as rain or snow, flows through rivers back to the sea. This is the water cycle, and it's been operating for billions of years, since the ocean first formed early in Earth's history. The water in the ocean is ancient. Some of it has been cycling for hundreds of millions of years, evaporating and falling and flowing, moving through different parts of the Earth system, but always eventually returning to the sea. When you drink a glass of water, you're drinking atoms that have been through this cycle countless times, that have been vapor in the atmosphere, ice in glaciers, groundwater in aquifers, part of ancient oceans, part of living organisms. Water is recycled endlessly, never created or destroyed, just changing form and location. And within the ocean, there are cycles too. Nutrients rise from the deep through upwelling, currents that bring cold, nutrient-rich water to the surface where it feeds phytoplankton blooms. These blooms feed zooplankton, which feed fish, which feed larger fish and marine mammals and seabirds. When organisms die, they sink, and bacteria decompose them, releasing nutrients back into the water. Some nutrients are recycled locally, but much sinks to the deep, accumulating in deep waters until currents or upwelling bring them back to the surface, completing the cycle. These cycles connect everything: the ocean and atmosphere, the surface and the deep, the living and the non-living. Energy and matter flow through the system in great loops, powered by the sun and by the heat from Earth's interior, by gravity and by chemical reactions, by the metabolic processes of countless organisms all playing their small parts in the larger pattern. You're part of cycles too. The carbon cycle, as you breathe, taking in oxygen produced by ocean phytoplankton and terrestrial plants, exhaling carbon dioxide that plants use for photosynthesis. The water cycle, as you drink and sweat and urinate, water passing through your body on its long journey from cloud to rain to stream to ocean and back again. The nitrogen cycle, the phosphorus cycle, all the biogeochemical processes that sustain life on Earth, you participate in all of them, a small but essential part of the planetary metabolism. And there are cycles in your own life. Days and nights, seasons, The cycle of growth from childhood through adulthood to old age. The cycles of relationships, friendships that form and change and sometimes end, family bonds that shift over time. Work and rest, activity and sleep. All of it moving in patterns, rhythms that repeat, yet never quite the same way twice. Each iteration unique, but recognizably part of a larger pattern. Right now, you're in the rest phase of your daily cycle. This is the time for sleep, for recovery, for letting your body repair itself and consolidate memories and restore energy. This phase is just as important as the active phase. You can't be awake all the time. You need this downtime, this period of reduced activity, to maintain your health, your mental clarity, your emotional balance. So let yourself rest. Let yourself be in this phase of the cycle, fully, without resistance. Tomorrow you'll rise again, refreshed, but right now, there's nothing to do but be still, be quiet, be at rest. The ocean rests too, in a sense. The deep waters, far from the turbulence of the surface, lie still for centuries, moving only slowly in the great conveyor currents, waiting patiently for their turn to rise again to the surface and feel the sun's warmth. There's no hurry, no urgency, just the slow, patient flow of time and water. Be like the deep ocean, still, patient, at rest. Let the cycles continue without your effort. Let the world turn. Let the tides rise and fall. Let your breathing slow to almost nothing, barely a whisper, barely a ripple on the surface of consciousness. And let sleep come, when it's ready, in its own time, following its own rhythm, natural and inevitable as the tide. Hashtag the long drift to shore. And now, as we near the end of our journey, as the hour draws to a close, let yourself drift slowly back toward shore, toward the shallows, toward the surface. The mysteries of the ocean don't end, but our exploration of them tonight is complete. You've descended from the sunlit surface to the hadal zone and back again, traveling through realms no human has visited without protection, seeing wonders that most people never imagine. You've learned that the ocean is vast and deep and mostly unexplored, that it teems with life in forms ranging from microscopic bacteria to blue whales, from simple sponges to intelligent octopuses, that it's full of mysteries, bioluminescent creatures and ancient currents, hydrothermal vents and whale songs, kelp forests and coral reefs. You've learned that the ocean shapes our planet, regulates our climate, produces our oxygen, sustains our life, that it's ancient and powerful and resilient, yet also fragile, vulnerable to the changes we're making to the planet, that it deserves our respect, our care, our protection. And you've learned, perhaps, that you're connected to the ocean in ways you never considered. Through the oxygen you breathe, the water you drink, the climate you depend on. Through the atoms in your body that have cycled through the ocean over billions of years. Through the ancient evolutionary heritage that traces back to marine organisms, to the first simple cells that formed in Earth's primordial seas. The ocean is part of you, and you are part of it. And when you rest, when you let yourself float in the darkness behind your closed eyes, you're returning in a small way to that ancient home, to the formless, weightless, supportive embrace of water, to the peace of drifting without effort, held and safe. Tonight, as you sleep, the ocean continues. Waves rise and fall. Tides ebb and flow. Currents circle the globe. Creatures hunt and hide, mate and migrate, live and die in the endless cycle. The deep remains dark and mysterious. The surface catches the light of the moon and stars. And somewhere, far from land, a whale sings, its voice carrying across hundreds of kilometers of water, a message to others of its kind, a sound that has echoed through the ocean for millions of years and will continue long after we're gone. You are safe on land, in your bed, removed from the ocean's dangers and discomforts. You don't need to dive into the deep or brave the cold or hold your breath. You can simply rest here, comfortable and warm, and let the ocean exist in your imagination, beautiful and mysterious, vast and peaceful. Let the sound of your breathing be like waves on a shore, rhythmic and constant. Let your body feel as relaxed as seaweed swaying in a gentle current. Let your mind be as still as the deep ocean, far below the surface turbulence, where everything is quiet and dark and slow. You've traveled far tonight. Through the sunlit surface, the twilight zone, the midnight zone, the abyss, down to the hadal depths and back up again. You've visited coral reefs and kelp forests, listened to whale songs, learned about bioluminescence and hydrothermal vents and the deep scattering layer. And now you're here, at the end of the journey, drifting gently towards sleep like a piece of driftwood floating toward shore, pushed by the tide, guided by currents, moving without effort toward rest. The ocean will be here tomorrow. Its mysteries will wait, and you will wake, rested and renewed, ready to face your day with the quiet strength of deep water, with the resilience of life that thrives even in the abyss, with the peace that comes from knowing you're part of something vast and ancient and continuing. But right now, there's only this: the darkness, the quiet, the soft cradle of sleep receiving you, gentle as water, deep as the ocean, endless and peaceful. Let go now. Let yourself sink that final distance, through the last layer of wakefulness into the deep rest of sleep. Let the ocean's mysteries drift away into the background. Let your thoughts dissolve like sea foam on a wave. You are safe. You are held. You are drifting into sleep like a boat settling into calm harbor waters after a long voyage. The journey is complete. The harbor is reached. And now there's nothing left to do but rest. Sleep well. Dream of the ocean if you dream at all, of the beautiful blue depths, of the creatures that glow in the dark, of the ancient songs carried on underwater currents. Dream of floating, weightless and free, held by water, protected by depth, at peace in the mystery. And when you wake, the ocean will still be there, vast and patient, its mysteries preserved, waiting for the day when perhaps you'll see it with your own eyes, when you'll float on its surface or dive beneath its waves and feel for yourself the wonder that tonight you've only imagined. But for now, sleep. Just sleep. Let the ocean rock you gently. Let its rhythms carry you away. Let its depths embrace you in peaceful darkness. Good night. Rest well. And let the ocean keep its mysteries while you sleep, safe and sound, wrapped in the comfort of your bed, drifting through dreams as deep and mysterious as the sea itself. The ocean continues. And so do you, breathing softly, resting deeply, held by forces greater than yourself, part of the endless cycle of waking and sleeping, activity and rest, life and dreams. Good night. Soft silence. The gentle sound of distant waves. The end of the story. The beginning of sleep.